Call to order this meeting of the Town Council for the Town of Mount Airy for January 6, 2014. We'll begin, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome Dave Dunn, our Frederick County Commissioners, here with us this evening. Also, for those who didn't join us earlier, earlier this evening, the mayor instituted the Frank Johnson Volunteer of the Year Award. Dick Swanson was the recipient, and again, Dick, on behalf of the council, especially on behalf of me, I can't imagine this council taking up an ethics issue or water and sewer issue without your advice. So again, Dick Swanson, the recipient of the Citizen of the
First
Year.
recipient.
First recipient, so thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, council meetings, and I think we'll try to do this as a slate. So before us we have the approval of the minutes of council meetings, December 2nd, 2013 Town Council meeting, followed by December 2nd, 2013, public hearing on ordinance 2013-17, followed by December 2nd, 2013, closed meeting as allowed by Government Article 1058A. Do I have any changes, corrections to these minutes?
To approve all as amended.
Councilman King moves to approve as submitted. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, police report. Trooper Vonnerville.
Good evening. Good evening, TFC Bonneville, Maryland State Police, signed to the Mount Airy Resident Trooper Program. I'm just going to go over some of the statistics for the month. I'll go over some of the highlights. I'm not going to go through everything unless you guys have any questions. This month, investigated a total of 219 calls, only 14 outside of town. There were 2 assaults, 2 burglaries, 10 thefts, did 249 patrol checks. As far as traffic enforcement goes, there were 80 citations issued, 137 warnings, 17 equipment repair orders, 1 DUI, 13 traffic accidents investigated. There were 3 CDS arrests during the month of December, 4 warrant arrests, and 27 cards for community policing. Other things that we were asked to mention, we are trying to be as prevalent as possible in the schools and parking lots as well as in the buildings. We're teaching the DARE classes for the Carroll County Public Schools on the Mount Airy side. We're just doing regular patrol checks in the parking lots as well as in the schools, making contact with the students, teachers, principals. Also, we're still working on getting rifles for the town troopers. I did speak with the Westminster Barracks commander as well as the head armor for the state police and the head rifle instructor, and we're going to set up a proposal for the town to present. It's going to be the couple different options, but the option they're looking towards is going to be the one that's cheapest for the town as well as for the state police. But they do have rifles and rifle school lined up for the troopers with the town's approval. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, for the rifles, I know previously in the past I talked to the troopers about the town procuring rifles if you all felt it was necessary. Mm-hmm. The budget cycle is starting.
Okay.
So, whenever y'all get a chance.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to have the lieutenant and I are going to sit down. We're going to decide what needs to be going into a report, and then we'll present it to the town council and the mayor.
And, I mean, perhaps if there's a model of rifle that you feel is more relevant or more useful for our particular area, at least my personal opinion is we're course, we're cognizant of cost, but
Mhm.
don't necessarily, choose a weapon that's insufficient based on cost.
Well, state police has, there's a list of weapons that meet the criteria. There's a list of manufacturers and models that we are permitted to use, and they're all thoroughly tested by the state police for what we'll do. So it will be one of those models.
Anybody else questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Ted Stavis, 603 Buffalo Road. Some time ago, I remember seeing troopers on motorcycles. Is that program still in effect?
Not in Mount Airy. We have a motor unit, and I'm not sure exactly how many troopers that we have working in the motor unit, but it's not as many as it used to be. Basically, the purpose of our motor unit is to be able to guide around traffic. They had a program called Reach the Beach, which was having troopers be able to ride a motorcycle down the shoulder, Route 50. You'll see them every once in a while, but typically not in Mount Airy. But town wants to buy me a motorcycle, I'll drive.
Having a trooper or two on a motorcycle, it seems to me that may make more sense rather than having a big squad car driving around, less conspicuous, and be able to-
I agree. That's something above my pay grade, though, in terms of getting motorcycles. They are going to a smaller vehicle. We have one in the town of Mount Airy. It's the Chevy Caprice, which is, I believe, more gas efficient than the Ford, as well as they're not making the Crown Vic anymore. But I like where you're thinking.
I do too, Ted. We'll take another research. It's the first time I actually ever heard that or even thought about it.
When the weather gets better.
And we do still have a bicycle unit here in town. There's no one right now currently certified to do the bike, but we do still have a bike, and we still have the bike uniforms. So,
Any other questions? Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. Bruce?
Good evening. For the month of December, we had, as far as rescue calls are concerned, we had 80 in Carroll, 53 in Frederick, 3 in Howard, and 3 in Montgomery. For fire calls, we had 21 in Carroll, 9 in Frederick, 1 in Howard, and 2 in Montgomery County, for a total of 172 incidents. Just some things I put together about last year. We had a total of 2,009 calls for service, 1,487 EMS calls, and 522 fire rescue calls. And unfortunately, our box areas do not exactly align with the town limits, so it's kind of hard for us to get the actual calls in the town. But what I did, just to give you a feel for it, I took the 1-1 box area, which is the main part of town on the Carroll side, the 115 box area, which is the main part of town on the Frederick County side, and the 113, which is Lorien and the surrounding area. We had 234 calls in the 1-1 box, which would be the sort of the Carroll side, 305 calls in the 115 box, which is the Frederick County side, and I think a lot of those were at the urgent care center that we have there. And at Lorien, we had 195 calls, and 190 of those were EMS to that area. So that was 734 calls. You add a few extra calls for the area like Sterling Glen and over in Nottingham, those areas that weren't captured. So we figure roughly about 40% of our calls for service are in the town limits.
And the rest are, of course, out of town.
And the rest are out of town, mutual aid, that sort of thing. We did have elections, and the fire company had change in leadership. I'm now the president of the fire company.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and I wish to thank Tom Walters for all the work he's done with the town, and he'll continue to serve as one of the vice presidents. And we have a new fire chief, Kenny Stahl, will be replacing Ivan Browning, and so there'll be a representative from the operations division attending the meetings, but they unfortunately had a work conflict and weren't able to attend today. And I remind everybody that we have our monthly breakfast coming up on the 19th.
Bruce, when you get a chance, can you email those statistics to the council?
Sure.
Because clearly 60% of the calls coming from outside the counties. So,
Well, not outside the county, outside the town.
thank you, outside the town. Do you have a breakdown of what percentage of those outside of town come from Carroll, come from Frederick?
We can get some of that information. We're just, the year ended and we haven't had a chance to get all the statistics in. And I want to try and see if there's some way this year we can perhaps make it so that we can get the better count on the actual town limits. But we can get you statistics pretty much any way you want. So maybe if you email me with what you exactly want,
Yeah.
I can get those statistics for you.
Right. I would be specifically interested in of the 60% that are outside of town limits, what percentage came from Carroll, percentage came from Frederick? Because as we know, I mean, the mayor and Councilman King and I have met with the fire department before, and as we know, there's I don't want to say looming issue, but there's a developing issue about, equity, about who's funding, who funds the fire department, how should the fire department be adequately funded.
Well, I think you see that in the fact that we had 234 on the Carroll side and 305 in the Frederick County side, just from the area that I picked out of those
Right.
two box
Right,
areas.
and then we have a Frederick County Commissioner with us this evening too. I'm sure is taking note of those numbers as well.
Yes, I made sure I spoke clearly.
Any other questions for Bruce?
That is, again, congratulations.
Thank you. Now, if I may put another hat on as election board chairman, we will have elections this year on the first Monday in May, and the time to registration will close on April 4th at 5 p.m. If you are a town resident and wish to vote, you need to be registered in either Carroll or Frederick County through the county registration process. And that will be the deadline that the counties have told us, April 4th at 5 p.m. And then there'll be more later on in the meeting about when our nominations meeting is, but that will be, nominations will open on February 10th. So if you're planning on seeking office in the town, now's the time to consider that, because it won't be long and we'll be having that meeting. And as I said, there'll be more about that later in the agenda.
And just in case you're one of our volunteer firefighters, no extensions in case you're called away.
Right.
If you have a call during.
Well, I've retired from active running, so unless there's an administrative emergency, I will stay here for.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, community concerns, citizens' comments. This is a period set aside for anyone to address the council and the community, and I know this evening we have Oscar Baker who would like to speak.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Oscar Baker, 615 Calliope Way, better known as Wrinkle City, up where I live. I'm glad we got the Frederick County Commissioner here. I hope he was listening to these calls on the fire business, because see if he can't get us a few dollars up there to help out some in the fire department, I mean, not the town. What I'm here for is to give you some insight on the Flatiron Building, as far as my feelings, personal feelings as a citizen of the town is concerned. I never heard it referred to as Flatiron Building until several years ago. It was always a pie-shaped building. That's what it was known as from the time it was built until just recently when the new people in the town decided to call it Flatiron, which is the same thing. It's about the same size, same shape, rather. So it goes back a long ways. It's one of the three remaining buildings, original remaining buildings on Main Street, not counting the one up at the top of the hill, that cemetery. The railroad station and Ben-Gu's store and this building happen to be the only three left, really, in the town that were originally here from way back when. And I guess when you get older, you think more about doing away with buildings that have a piece of your past, and that's why I'm thinking about this, because I'd like to see the building left or some type of facsimile similar to it, as opposed to tearing it down completely. Word gets around on some of these things, and when I talk about pie-shaped building, when I was drafted in the Army in 1943 and out in Fort Lewis, Washington, a young soldier came up to me and said, "So you're from Mount Airy, Maryland?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you ever hear of a building in your town referred to as pie-shaped?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "My father was stationed at Fort Detrick, and we used to ride around in the country and looking at the places in the mountains and so on. And he said, I remember him taking a picture of this pie-shaped building. He said, can you imagine building a building to coincide with the two streets? one street on one side and one on the other. He said, you don't see that much. And so, you know, things like that remain in my mind and thinking about this, and therefore, one of the reasons is I wouldn't want to see it tore down. But when I used to work at the Wilkins' store across the street from the Flatiron building, one day Mr. Howard Hood was there, and he had shoe repair. They called him deaf and dumb. He was deaf maybe, but he wasn't dumb by any stretch of the imagination, because he had a bunch of children, and he made a wonderful living repairing shoes. You don't see that today, because shoes back then were expensive, and $2.98 a pair, and that was expensive back in the early 40s. So he repaired the shoes, and one day he came over across the street running and waving his arms, because that's the only way he could get attention, making noises. And he had me go over there, and he had fell through the floor where his shop was. And Mr. Truman Lohman had his office and the shop upstairs where the state troopers are now. And so he went down and looked at it, and he said that it looks like the footers have given away. So the town at that time got, well, it wasn't the town, it was Pryor's building then. He got him to jack up the building and put new footers in. Now that's been 65 years ago, and it's lasted until almost now, right? And so I'm just wondering why that can't be fixed for another 65 years. It's a lot better than tearing it down, I would think. But anyway, you know, we try to hold on to as much as possible. And I know it might be an eyesore in some people's minds and in the way of other future buildings in another sense of imagination, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents into the fact that I think that it's something that the town grew up around, and let's try to keep as much as we can from the original go-round and see how long it will last, because we can say in the future, when you guys get my age, you can say, this thing was here way back when. And it would mean a lot to some of the old people. The ones that are dead and gone would be here tonight, if they could, I'm sure, to say the same thing. And maybe it's because of my age and so on, but I'd still like to see it kept either like it is or a close facsimile thereof. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar.
Oscar, just so everyone knows, I don't think any of the proposals we're going to tear down in its entirety without building at the very least. But all those options are available on our Facebook page and on our website if the community would like to go through the options that the town council is currently considering.
Yes, Commissioner Dunn.
Thank you. Dave Dunn, Board of Commissioners Liaison. I'm not so sure if it's a promotion or a demotion being called a commissioner, but thank you anyway. Just one thing I wanted to bring up. I'm trying to get around to all the municipalities. In August of 2013, the county passed a Frederick County senior property tax credit. And until now, I think the biggest thing is the seniors are not aware of it. In 2013, we only had about 766 seniors take advantage of the senior property tax credit. And we believe that's about, there's over 7,000 per the census data that would qualify for this. So right now it's not being used. There's a tax credit out there. There are some requirements. There are 2 application forms that I'd like to leave with staff, and they could have them available at Town Hall. You have to be at least 65 years of age and a household income of $60,000 or less. And it is initiated through a state application. There is a state property senior tax credit, and once they decide what that credit would be, then the county falls in behind them. In some cases, depending on the qualifications, it could be 0 for seniors, and we're not sure. I think it's a little cumbersome. That's why I'm hoping that these hard copies of these applications can be left at the municipal town halls, because I think seniors, you have to navigate out to the state website to find these applications, and you know, sometimes that can be a little cumbersome. So for whatever the reason is, we're just trying to get seniors, this benefit is out there, and we're working on the next fiscal year now, and the deadline is September 1st for an application, and all of that is in the documentation. So we're hoping that maybe on your website, your front page, you can put a link to the county's website and have these hard copies. And I've also asked that maybe the staff could assist citizens if they came down to the town hall, because I think some of the application is a little daunting.
Do you have a breakdown of the municipalities within Frederick County of how many, because you said there was about 7,000 people that qualified. Do we know how many in Mount Airy qualified, so that, that would actually help us?
I could, get staff to take those 766 that did apply and what geographically where they're, located, and then the 7,000 that we believe qualify based on census data. So, it shouldn't be too much trouble to be able to.
If we could get some idea of what we're dealing with, it probably would help our staff a little bit more at doing an outreach.
So we're going to try, we have through September, try to get more seniors to take advantage of it. It's there. So.
Dave, thank you. This is not the first year this credit's been offered before.
It was passed by the Board of Commissioners in August of 2013, so it's a relatively new credit.
I thought at one time we did an outreach for the tax credit. We will again do
Okay.
that. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this forward.
That was probably a different type of credit. This is just for seniors.
Everything you suggested,
Yep.
we can certainly do here.
Sure.
Especially the assistance with our elevator staff is very helpful.
And I think having hard copies available at the municipal offices may eliminate the seniors having to go out and navigate the state website and try to find them. So.
We could just leave it with.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we also get copies posted at both the library in town and the senior center? Right, we can get it posted at the senior center as well?
Yeah, and the only other thing I failed to mention is staff at Department of Aging will be going through the county and holding 4 or 5 seminars geographically in the county, invite all the citizens into the senior center to walk them through it and give more information. So that's going to be coming in the upcoming, this calendar year. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Pete Bellis. I'm here on behalf of the Mount Airy Historical Society tonight. And first of all, I'd like to say we have a real treasure in Mount Airy. We all just got to listen to the folks not only here in this room, but out there watching on the Carroll County cable and the Frederick County cable. A man who has a vast, vast history of our town. And it is just wonderful to hear Mr. Oscar and to be here and know that Mr. Oscar is telling us these stories. Because another resident of our town also went with Mr. Oscar to Fort Lewis, Washington, Mr. Zeke Watkins, who was a recruiter here in Mount Airy for quite some time. And Mr. Oscar talked about the Flatiron Building and historical memorabilia, and I'd like to add to that. I've been very fortunate to be on a committee that was chaired by your mayor and my mayor, Mr. Pat Rockenberg, for the last year and a half. And this committee is forming a booklet which will show the history of every building downtown. And it's going to be, once this booklet is approved, there will be a sign in every business that will tell the history of that building. And Mr. Swanson's on that committee, Ellie Bondi, Oscar, myself, Peter Helt, Mary Beth Ruck. But the driving force behind this has been our and your mayor. And I need to say thanks, Mayor. And leading me along to that brings me to this. I heard Mr. Dunn just say that the forms will be available here for seniors to come downtown to Town Hall. And for you, the members of my town and my community, we have a lot of memorabilia at the Historical Society that people have not seen. And on Saturday, Mayor Pat called me and he said, Pete, what would you think of this idea? What would you think of taking some of the memorabilia that's in storage and bringing it down to Town Hall and displaying it. And it took me 1 second to say, that's a wonderful idea. And so yesterday, I was here along with a very good friend of mine, Mary Beth, and Mayor Pat, and we put memorabilia up in the hallway. And it is, some of the memorabilia is from the Mount Airy High School. Mount Airy High School is no longer there. It's closed in 1967, and the big bulldozer took it down this past spring. But this is pictures of the graduating classes, pictures of our town, pictures and reproductions of old newspapers that are just important to our town. So I encourage everybody, number one, downtown, to come downtown, come in, don't pay your water bill over the internet, come downtown, come into Town Hall, look, see, think about, and remember this memorabilia and things that happened in your life. And perhaps in your attic, you have a picture or an artifact or something that you don't know what it is or what you're going to do with it. Please call down to Town Hall. Tell the ladies, you have a picture. I would be more than happy to come and pick it up. We can discuss it, and we can get it down here and get other people to see it. And it's very important that we preserve our heritage here in our town. And having said that, I want to wish everybody a very happy new year, and I hope to hear a lot of phone calls. And I'd also like to say one more thing. If you come downtown, I want you to look at this picture of the elementary class of Miss Corinne Watkins in the class of 1948, the first graders that started. There are people in this picture who were in that class who've done a lot of volunteer work, and it takes a lot of volunteers. I've heard that repeated several times tonight. It takes a lot of volunteers to make a great town, and Mount Airy is a great town. There's no question. So come downtown, look at this memorabilia, and we're going to try to change it on a quarterly basis. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
For all your help.
Hi, I'm Dick Swanson, South Main Street. For Oscar's benefit, the pie-shaped building got the name Flatiron Building by former Mayor Jim Holt, who had no idea it was called the pie-shaped building, looked at it and said, that's the Flatiron Building. So that's where it came from, somewhere between 2002 and 2006 when he was mayor.
I think we need to switch back and start calling it the Pie Ship Building.
I think you're right.
Larry Hushauer, 501 Restridge. I'm the chairman of the Parks and Rec Board for the town. I came in earlier today, and I would tell you, Pete, it took me 20 minutes to go through all the pictures and everything. It was a lot of fun to look at everything, so I'm glad that happened. On the Parks and Rec side of things, the Mount Airy Rails to Trails is moving along at about the pace of molasses, but we're swimming through it. We have partnered with the Mount Airy Community Fund, which is a nonprofit run by a lady who lives out of town limits but does as much in this town as any of the town residents. She has a line item in the nonprofit that goes directly to Rails to Trails. Once the trail is constructed, we're going to have to maintain the trail, and we've also been looking at a caboose. We actually have 2 cabooses that we're looking at, something that we're trying to bring into town when we figure out all the logistics of it. As a fundraiser, the community fund put together a calendar that is available at the Blossom and Basket Boutique, Ellie Bond shop behind the old railroad station. And it's all pictures of the trail throughout the months as we worked on it through the year 2013. As well, that's $20 for the calendar. And then we also had these patches made. You can get them for free if you put in 2 volunteer hours out on the trail doing work, or you can pay $5 and go to Ellie's and you can buy one or two, as many as you'd like. So anyway, I'm kind of foot stomping on behalf of the community fund on that. The only other Parks and Rec issue that I'd like to bring up now is that somehow 9 ducks showed up in the Prospect Pond at Prospect Park. And we've had several emails from people that are concerned about the ducks' welfare throughout the winter months. The town staff, Brian Johnson, was good enough to have his guys put together a little house, and the ducks are using it, so it's working out for them. And there's some other volunteers in town that are going out there and throwing breadcrumbs and crackers to them and everything. So we're kind of trying to set up a schedule to keep the ducks fed throughout the winter. So anyway, I would just tell you, if you're out there and you got some stale bread or something, go out to Prospect Pond and throw your bread in the water. The ducks will appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Oh, thanks. Volunteers are great.
Thank you. Any other community concerns, citizens' comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, ordinances and resolutions. This evening for adoption is ordinance 2013-19. This amends section 109.3 of the town code, which is entitled Adequate Water Required. The purpose of the short amendment to the code is as follows. If a resident is a resident of the town is currently on their own septic system and or their own well system, and the resident decides, or business decides, that perhaps they would be better off if they connected to the town's sewer system alone, not incur the expense of hooking up to the water system. And frankly, since we don't have any water at the moment, we would prefer folks don't hook up to the water system. So the change to the town code here is to allow a citizen to connect to just the sewer system if they need, or just to the water system if they need. So it was introduced last time. I'll go ahead and make the motion that the council approve ordinance 2013-19 as presented. Do I have a second? Bob King seconds. Discussion?
I have one quick question.
And citizens' comments if anybody would like to speak. Yes, Dave.
I have a quick question. What is the definition of promptly? Because it says here the property owner shall promptly apply. What do we determine as promptly?
Yeah, it's loose, and intended to be so.
Okay.
I think that, thinking about, there may be various factors that might make different time periods reasonable.
Okay.
But certainly if we wanted to put something more exact.
I mean, I don't want to be too restrictive, but at the same time, I don't want, I would hate to see something go down the road of where like a government official at some point in time, if somebody, asked for this and then 6-7 months down the road they applied and somebody turned around and said, well, that's not, you didn't do that in a prompt manner. I'm just wondering if there's some way that we can, get something that kind of hones in a little bit more on what prompt is.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, we could be more exact there. I think that the thinking is of course, further on what we've said, what it says already in the current version is that the extension must occur unless, with now the new proposed language, an extension, unless an extension is permitted, that the extension occur within 3 years. So clearly, I think the thinking was there's already that sort of boundary or that time frame built in already. Promptly is loose, admittedly, but you could certainly cut that.
But it's loose on purpose.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is help folks here. And
I understand. What I'm just trying to say is, I just don't want to get ever into like that area where if somebody walks in and they apply and somebody turns around and says, you didn't apply for this in a prompt manner.
Right.
And that's the only area that I'm concerned about. I mean, should we, if we want to use the language of 3 years, should we just say across the board, you have to do it within a 3-year period? Or, I mean,
Or
it
some
go,
earlier period than 3 years. but
Exactly.
Enough time to allow the processing of a water and sewer allocation.
exactly.
Remembering the process that now exists, given our new allocation ordinance.
So my opinion is that, since I made a motion, my opinion is that we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. So I'm not in favor of changing it.
If you were gonna change it, what?
We said that, I'm sort of looking to Tom to kind of help me out here, because, I mean, I know what our new schedule is. Again, I don't want something too restrictive, because I understand Chris's point of view. But at the same time, I don't want something that is so vague that we could have somebody arbitrarily say, well, I don't believe that that is in a prompt manner. Or we could have a group of individuals say, we don't believe that was in a prompt manner. I mean, and to be honest, I mean, if you're saying, okay, 3 years is the maximum, but then if we take into account what our new standard is, why don't we back that processing out and then say it has to be done by such and such a date?
Another way you could resolve that perhaps is just take out the word promptly, just say, the owner shall apply for a water and or sewer allocation permit, and shall, assuming such is granted, make connection within 3 years.
I could,
Just take the word promptly out.
yeah, I could accept that.
I was going to say scratch the word promptly, because already in 109-3 it says it's a 3-year window that you have 3 years once it's extended, so just take promptly out.
I'm good with that.
Bob?
I can live with that.
Okay, so I'll amend the motion to strike the word promptly, section 109.3-A. I think it appears a single time, right?
Second stamp.
Second line, all right, so I'll strike that. All right, so I'm in the motion.
Question.
Pat?
You have one resident that just won't impact immediately. This 3-year deadline impact the deadline? Would change his application?
The way correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but the way this is written is the resident, if they choose, can now start the process of applying for sewer.
Starts now.
Right, but there's provisions in here for hardship, cost. So let's say the resident decides the cost is prohibitive. There's already a provision in here that allows them to apply for an exception based on cost, which is certainly
I know you brought
protects,
forward, so you know that's.
right, protects folks.
Okay. But I think the resident is beyond 3 years from,
Well, that's.
But at the same time, you can also put in for a net
but he can now apply for an
This gives
extension.
This gives
which
for
did
extension.
not previously.
Right.
Right.
As long as they're covered.
Before they didn't have, it would have been extended and it would have expired, but this actually gives an extension.
Okay. Because I know that was your intent.
Any other questions? All right, so based on the amended motion, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, just for introduction, ordinance 2014-2, to permit fitness clubs, fitness studios, clubs, or gyms, or indoor sports facilities along Center Street in the downtown zone. So this is for introduction only, so I'll introduce it for discussion. Tom?
To refer to
Yes.
Thank you.
zone.
Peter would know that. All right. Moving on to unfinished business. Water and Sewer Commission Resolution Water Allocation Proposal. So the, Monica, can we have the water flow chart displayed, please? That was off of Mike's. So the Water and Sewer Commission met December, right, Dick? Met in December, evaluated the water situation once again as planned, and the Water and Sewer Commission is recommending that the town release 20,000 gallons. So according to our new procedure, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, now that the Water Commission has recommended that 20,000 gallons be released, this now goes to the town engineer. Town engineer who's a professional engineer, will again evaluate the data, the flows, and then come back to the town council per the new code. The town council will then approve said allocation. Scott?
One minor change to this, the third whereas actually says the planning commission recommends.
Oh, yeah, it's the water
Supposed to be water and sewer commission.
It's right here.
Third.
So we'll note that correction. And then I just wanted to, just briefly for everybody, display, we've got the year-end totals for 2014. And there's something of note I just wanted to bring up with folks so you know where we are. So no action for the council here. This is informational. Bob?
I seem to have it stuck in my brain. We're talking over a period of 3 years, the 60,000 gallons will go
Yes,
out.
20,000 a year.
And I seem to have it stuck in my brain that our water ordinance that we passed recently. Had it 2 years for each 20,000 gallons.
Again, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, so the way sorry, so again, the Water Commission is recommending we release the first 20 of an eventual 60. That goes to town engineer. Town engineer will validate the number, come to the council and say, okay, council, go ahead and approve this year's 20,000. Now, what happens next is, again, under the new ordinance, the planning commission will recommend allocation categories. The planning commission could recommend 50% residential, 50% commercial. It could recommend 100%. The planning commission will do that. The council gets to approve, modify, send it back. That stays in place for 2 years, but the planning commission can go back once within that period to modify that. So could you bring up the page that there's a chart?
Chart 1?
It'll show the total year-end flows. Right there. Okay, thanks, Phil. If we go all the way to the right-hand side, I just want to show the trends, and there's something to note in these trends. And this is raw information that just became available, I believe, Thursday we got the information. What you'll see on the far right-hand side is the total flow for 2013. So you'll notice that in 2013, the total flow actually jumped approximately 30,000 gallons. If you go to the left, the low point, 632,000 gallons. So we've had a slight increase in 2013. So once again, the plan here all along from the Water Commission has been, we believe we have 60,000 gallons. We've covered this before. We absolutely have to make sure we make no mistakes in our allocation schema at all. Hence, Water Commission's recommendation that we release 20 at a time. So next year we'll look again at the flow to make sure we're not headed in the wrong direction. So again, this is raw information that just came out Thursday.
So your raw information chart is, and I can't see the bottom, so I apologize. Is this by month, by year?
Year. This is
So
year.
this is every year. So you have a downward trend over 12 years?
Correct, and that was why we came up with, right, and that downward trend is what justified the belief that we have 60,000 gallons that we can put into.
Consumption or amount that is used?
This is flow out of the wells.
So we have a downward trend. There's less and less water over a 12-year period that's coming out, yet we're going to release more water. And we're showing that there's less and less water coming out of the well.
No, what we're showing here, this is consumption. So
That's what I asked.
right,
Is it
all
consumption
we're
or
showing
is
here
it
that
production?
this is consumption. So we're showing there's a slight increase in consumption, and again, that slight increase in consumption is the reason why the Water Commission, instead of releasing the whole 60,000 at once, is going in a staged fashion. And again, you know, as we've talked about this a lot before, we're baby steps because we're out of the consent agreement. The last thing we want is to be put under development pressure to release water that could put us back into problems. So, thank you. Any other questions about the chart or the issue? Okay, thanks. Next item on the agenda, which was recently added, salary vote. The council met in closed meeting last time to discuss salaries as allowed by state law. Turns out that in order to increase an employee's salary, that must be, a motion must be made by the council. This salary increase, as discussed before, does not affect the current budget. So I'll move to increase the front desk administrative staff person salary by $1.25 per hour as discussed in the closed session after the December council meeting. Do I have a second? We thought at the time, if it didn't impact the budget, we didn't have to vote. But staff has clarified that according to section, I believe it's C2-12 of the charter, the council must approve all salaries. That's in the charter.
Well, yeah.
It's in the charter.
It doesn't matter, you're here, you can certainly do it, but the charter says all salaries, you do approve all salaries during the budget process. That's already approved. We're within that cap, so I don't think it's required, but it certainly doesn't hurt since it's on the board.
But C2-12 does state.
Seeing this is
So
a,
Scott, go. Scott and then Dave.
I'm sorry, I just checked real quick. Code does say under C2-12, salaries and officers and employee, salaries of officers and employees, the council shall fix the salaries of all officers and employees of the town of Mount Airy.
Dave?
Well, no, I was just gonna ask Tom, if we're, okay, we vote on a salary at the budget time, but if we're changing that salary, shouldn't it require a new vote?
reading the language that Scott did, I would say yes.
Right, so,
Then let's take the vote.
well, I've got the motion on the table. Do I have a
Yeah, that's
second?
what I'm saying.
Second?
I'll
Dave?
second it.
All right, Dave seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, under new business. So as our election chair has noted, we've got to move the date of the nominations. We need to do this by motion. So I'll move that we change the second. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me check the motion. Second board. Yeah, go ahead, Bruce. Thank you, please.
When we changed the election ordinance, we opened the nomination period for a week. So on one Monday we open it, it remains open until the next Monday when we accept final nominations and then we close it. The problem we run into this year is that that particular closing Monday in February hits on President's Day, and Town Hall is closed. And so that's a holiday for staff. So we wouldn't be able to have the meeting that evening unless staff came in on overtime or whatever. We would like to then move it to Wednesday. We can't move it to Tuesday because the council is sitting as a court or something to handle an issue. So the council is tied up and staff. So the soonest we could then close it would be that Wednesday. So we are requesting that for this one time because of this confluence of dates that be moved to Wednesday.
Thank you. All right, so the motion reads as follows. I move to change the second Board of Supervisors of Elections nominating meeting from February 17th, 2014 to February 19th, 2014 for this one time only due to the federal holiday falling on February 17th, 2014. Therefore, nominations will remain open until Wednesday, February 19th, 2014. Do I have a second? Scott? Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is release for restrictive covenants. And Tom, I'll turn that one over to you.
Yeah, I got a call from the attorney for the group that's looking to occupy the shopping center where Super Fresh used to be. It appears that when Super Fresh occupied, some restrictive covenants were placed on the property that in some at the time eliminated certain competition for super pressure. And there is within the covenant a very long list of things that within a certain radius of that location cannot be undertaken that would have been in competition in theory with super pressure. Among them, it says medical groups, basically, with a certain square footage. Now, there's a dispute between the medical group's attorney on the one hand and the title company on the other as to whether or not that restriction really applies in this instance. But the attorney for the medical group just felt that it's probably easiest to simply get a release of those covenants because they were only really relevant to when the super pressure was there, which was not. And therefore, it'd be easier than that and fight with the title company about what the language of the restrictive covenants are. So they're going to each of the neighboring properties to owners to get a relinquishment or release of the restrictive covenants. They come to us simply because we own the road, and therefore that's the purpose of it is to ask us to approve a relinquishment of those covenants, basically. I did look at the instrument for release. There is one small little bit of language that I asked be included. I wanted to make clear that even if the town were to sign off on this, it would not relinquish the rights of the town to enforce its zoning, applicable zoning laws as they would relate to this particular property. But that aside, I didn't have any problem with the language or even the concept.
The last second, the last sentence.
Yes.
So by us signing this, we will definitely help move this shopping center forward.
That's correct.
No downside, only an upside. Okay.
We're helping the business come in, which is what we've been trying to do with all businesses in the area.
Bob? Oh, looking for.
Who's just waving to you?
All right, do I have a motion for approval? Bob, can? All right, so Bob's made the motion to approve I guess the official language would be Bob's making a motion to approve the town signing release of covenants. Okay, Scott second. Any questions, discussion, comments, concerns?
And this is only for the road, for our part, and then
It's only sent to us by virtue of the fact that we own the road.
Right. But the parcels, to understand, are still gonna have to do their part.
Yes, the owners of the other surrounding parcels will still have to sign off.
Okay, seeing no more questions or discussions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimous. Okay. Next on the agenda is the mayor's report and commission appointments and reappointments.
Thank you, Councilman. Happy New Year to everyone. Before we move into 2014, I'd like to take a few seconds back to reflect on 2013. I think it's fair to say that we should be thankful for a great year financially. Our reserves have increased, even while we maintained the homestead tax credit at zero. We did not increase taxes, and we did not cut services. Also, there was no increase in the water and sewer rates. We no longer supplement water use with your town tax dollar. I feel it's commendable performance in this down economy. And as I thank everyone who's been involved in this, the staff, the commission members, and the elected officials here at this table providing the leadership. Along Main Street, the large-scale projects are finally complete. The state has completed their sidewalk improvements, and we can now benefit from adequate water infrastructure for many years to come. And a more aesthetically pleasing and a much safer sidewalk system, providing increased accessibility to downtown parking areas, and the newly constructed stormwater management design to protect the entryways of our Main Street businesses. For years, we had sandbags. They're a thing of the past. They won't be there any longer. Thanks to everyone for their patience as we've worked through this. Thanks to our strong volunteer base, which I consider the heartbeat of Mount Airy, the Rails to Trails project led by Larry Hushauer, Diane Martin, and Jay Wise has become a reality. Please stop by Watkins Park and see the beginning of what will be a functioning Rails to Trails system throughout our town. Thanks to Terry King and several others, we now have an Arts Alliance providing art shows and live performances downtown. The Alliance brings folks downtown and encourages arts through our community. It's exciting to be part of this, and it's beneficial to our community. And just so you know, at some of their last performances, we had people flooding out past that door. Town hall was packed with people downtown, enjoying our main street, spending money in our shops, and dining in our restaurants. Thank Terry for that. This is a good example of a positive improvement to what is already a great town without changing our small town charm. Acknowledging the value of our volunteers, we have reinstituted our annual Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, again, thanks to the leadership at this table, and recognize some of our outstanding volunteers, as we did tonight, and we have in the past with Mr. Hobb. Many of you may have noticed that for the first time, we've played Christmas music downtown on our PA system, and we've added an extra special holiday atmosphere. Dick, again, thank you for your help on the PA system. Y'all didn't know, Dick was one to help set that up. We even added a mini light show to the side of Ben Goo's Antiques. The result has been an even more enjoyable downtown holiday experience. This is our time to brag a little bit, so continue. We said goodbye to the long-standing Mount Airy High School / middle school. We have a beautiful new building where generations to come will make lasting memories. Bricks from the historical building are available by contacting Mary Beth Rook. Her email is available on the website and my report and our own Pete Palace. We saw our first July 4th celebration this year, which brought the community together like no other event in recent memories. A special thanks to Ben Galecki of Mount Airy Liquors and Dr. Chris Coleman of Mount Airy Eye Care and all the other businesses that contributed to make this a reality. And there were a number of other businesses, the Fox team and several others. We've been blessed with a great mayoral intern, Tyler Graham, who's been a huge asset to the town and to the mayor's office. The town's first app was developed to help promote existing businesses. Again, a special thanks to Tyler Graham and Melissa Hoyle for their hard work. Our master plan is in its final stages. One significant change to the proposed draft is the outer growth areas previously designated for residential growth are now proposed to hold a conservation classification upon annexation. This change reflects the 2000 town survey. This survey offered a unique opportunity for the community to provide feedback and speak towards important issues concerning the town's future. More importantly, the survey came with the responsibility to demonstrate to the citizens that we heard them, and you'll see that carried out in our new master plan. Previous town staff structuring continues to produce positive results and bring better service to the community. We pride ourselves on our service, and if it's not up to your expectations, please let me know at prockenberg@gmail.com. We have implemented an expanding community outreach incentive through posting of properties, a new Facebook page, a Twitter feed, business app for your phone, new emergency preparedness notifications, along with an updated website, and I think Scott's been instrumental in helping staff with that website, and our community calendar. That's something new. We are utilizing Town Hall for many civic and historical functions. Pete spoke to this, so I won't, but come down and visit all the fixtures that we've had downtown in Mount Airy. There's several artifacts as well that you can come down and see. If anybody remembers someone named Buzz Norris, or Buzz, affectionately known as the town police officer, we have his jacket and hat down here. So please come down and see that. In my view, your town government, staff, mayor, council, commissions are working together even better than before with a refreshing spirit of cooperation and collaboration. We are learning from our differences and doing so in a civil manner that allows us to provide better service to you, the citizens we have the privilege of serving. To help achieve this goal, we have implemented civility training. Bob, thank you for your initiative on that, as well as we all strive to improve for the sake of this great community. Going forward into 2012, just a sampling of what we hope to accomplish. We are exploring options to bring a real train downtown. Larry spoke about that already. Expanding rails to trails through the Main Street and adding entry signs at our town borders. thank David Dunn of Frederick County for providing those signs. We have established a community center task force to identify what needs we are meeting in the community and how we might, what needs we are, that's actually a typo, what needs we are missing in the community and how we might meet those needs. The task force will meet the first Thursday of every month at 7:30. Due to the holiday, January's meeting will be this Thursday, January 9th at 7:30 p.m. Thank you for being a part of that commission. We will be adding historical sign markers to each of downtown businesses. Pete spoke about that. And to allow future generations to know the historical significance of our town. We are also exploring new technologies. I think Councilman Strong is working on that, such as fiber optics, alternate power. I've seen a preview tonight, and even an electric charging station for electric cars to encourage this new technology and to promote visitors to Mount Airy and to promote economic development in Mount Airy. If you put a charging station here, you can get somebody with an 80-mile radius to drive here for the 2 hours it takes them to charge. They'll be shopping and eating in our restaurants. Cost about $2 to charge a car. As we enter the election season, year 2014 will also present challenges in responding to unfunded state and federal mandates, such as the rain tax, increased environmental requirements as to treating runoff and others, as well as reduced funding. We look forward to seeking the best solutions and options for the citizens of Mount Airy. As we enter the election cycle, we hope all those hoping to return to office or to serve for the first time in elected capacity will share what they hope to bring to the town and the people they seek to serve. Please ask the candidates the tough questions, as we need to learn from each other. As a reminder, residents are required to clear their sidewalks within 24 hours of a snowfall. It would also be beneficial if those who are able could also ensure the fire hydrants near their homes are cleared and help elderly or sick neighbors with the clearing of their sidewalks and hydrants. This will save valuable time for emergency personnel and assist them with saving lives and property. The Mayor's Community Forums will be held January 11th and 25th, 10:30 to noon, right here at Town Hall. Volunteer opportunities are available on the web. Thank you for your patience. That was a rather long report. And I would like to move into recommending the following reappointments under this report. Recommending the following reappointments to the Board of Supervisors of Elections. Bruce Walsh, Richard Swanson, Letitia Wood would be moved to a full voting member. I ask for the council's approval.
I move we accept the mayor's appointments. Second.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Oh, I thought.
Aye. Sanitation, Recycling, and Arts Council, Bob.
Okay, sanitation and recycling. Lights were installed at the downtown center. Thank you, Mayor Pat, for that. Our last yard waste and Christmas tree recycling pickup comes this Saturday, January the 11th. Have your tree and bags to the curb by 6 a.m. The next meeting of the Sanitation and Recycling Commission is on Wednesday, January the 15th, 7 p.m. at Town Hall. The Mount Airy Arts Alliance, the holiday show and sale was a huge success. The holiday concert series, which was held here at Town Hall, was well attended and highly praised. And Pat's right, they were the last concert. We had seating in the hallway out to the door, and these doors were open, and we had seating down that hallway, and the place was packed, and everybody singing Christmas carols. It was a great night. Plans are being made now for the 2014 events. They're getting ready to put out a schedule for the things that are going to happen at least over the next couple of months. The artist of the month for January is Don Burdell. He's the bird carver. For all of you I was told to call him the bird carver. Their next meeting is Wednesday the 8th, which is this coming Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall. And that's my report.
Parks and Recs, beautification, Dave.
Beautification did not meet, nor did Parks and Rec, but I do have 3 things to discuss with Parks and Rec. Rails to Trails has 67 plank owner volunteers. To become a plank owner, you need to do 2 volunteer hours, and then you get a patch, as Larry had talked about earlier. The dog park, we used to issue dog licenses for the dog park out of the pet loft. Since that is closed, we've moved dog tag licensing over to the skate park. So if you need to get a license for your dog, go over and talk to Linda Brown over at the dog park. And then the board is working on standardizing all the park fees for the year to come, and that's my report.
Thanks, Dave. Planning EDC, Scott?
All right, thank you. First, I just want to say to Larry about Rails to Trails, thank you. I know that the kids are enjoying the fact that they can also earn their credit hours towards graduation, so that's something that I definitely highlight. Maybe you can get more activity for the spring. For planning, there was no December meeting. There is a work session that's going to occur this Thursday at 7 p.m. They're going to go over the master draft and the public comments and start assessing those. Planning's main meeting for the end of the month will be on the 27th at 7:30. Both of those meetings will be here in Town Hall. As far as EDC did not have a meeting as it was December and it was so close to the holidays. Their next meeting will be on the 22nd at 7:30 p.m. here at Town Hall. That concludes both my reports.
Thanks, Scott. Streets and roads we'll skip because Peter's an excused absence tonight. Water and sewer. Water and sewer met in December. The council has the water and sewer resolution about a suggestion for water allocation we've already discussed. The FOG, fats, oils, and grease ordinance is now, has been enacted in law. So the Water and Sewer Commission is advising the town on how to start to roll out that program gently. So the means and the mechanisms of how it's enforced and how we inform the business owners, that process has started now, and again, we'll do that gently because the intent's not to run out and find businesses. It's to stage this in an orderly fashion, so folks come up to speed and get in compliance with the law. Also, during the December meeting, Water and Sewer had a briefing by Bruce Michael from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. Bruce gave us a very informative briefing on the Conolingo Dam and how it affects pollution in the bay. I'll make sure that presentation gets posted up on the town website. Councilman King was there for the meeting as well. I know we both found that very informative. It helped sort of frame the rain tax discussion a little bit, also, the Maryland legislative session is starting up. You may have seen an article in the newspaper about some of the things the Maryland legislature will be talking about in this next session. The rain tax, the repeal of the rain tax is one of them. Not speaking for water and sewer, speaking for myself, I encourage everybody who's listening, if you are against the rain tax and against what that will cost you, please start to let your legislators know, because it's very, very important that we do that. The costs on this one are phenomenal to us, so we would like to prevent that from happening. Dick, anything else on water and sewer that I missed?
I think you covered it.
Okay, great. Next Water and Sewer Commission meeting is this Wednesday the 8th, correct? Here in Town Hall, and we're still looking for volunteers, so if you're interested in all things water and sewer, please join us. I'll also shoehorn the way Councilman King does the Arts Council. I'll kind of tack on here the Community Center Task Force. The mayor's assigned me as a liaison to the Community Center Task Force. We had our first meeting back in November. We did not have one in December due to conflicts. So the first meeting was essentially a get to know you, get to know everybody, throw some ideas around. The next Community Center Task Force meeting is scheduled for Thursday the 9th, I believe. So we'll make sure that's posted. Thank you, Mary Beth. We'll make sure it's posted on Town Hall. And again, everybody's invited to join in on those discussions. That's all I have. Town Administrator.
We want to welcome Eric Stockdale. He is our new assistant public works director. He took Brett's place, and we kind of snagged him from the town of Sykesville. He worked for Sykesville for 17 years, and now he works for us, so we're really thrilled to have him. The other thing is we're working on budget. Preliminary numbers are due by January 16th, so if you have any special projects that you want to put in the budget, please let us know. So we'll be having some internal workshops on that.
Town Attorney.
Just as a reminder on the Harrison and Shear matter, we have the follow-up meeting with IDA, its council, on January 21st at 7 p.m., which the public can attend. And I think will be the subject of a press release or notification to the public as well. we touched on this earlier, but just as a reminder, under our new water allocation ordinance, in February, this council will take up a resolution about, based on town engineer's recommendation, setting the available water capacity and sewer capacity yield, as that term's defined in our new water allocation ordinance. And also presumably in the same resolution determining what is the method by which we essentially calculate that. Currently, for instance, we use, I think it's 2004, which was sort of what we used under the consent order. The new proposal, I think, would be based upon 2008.
I would say necessarily 2008, but the prior calculations that have been presented to the council with the town engineer's help.
Yes. So that's the key timeline, so to speak, by February. Then just briefly on Rails to Trails, Larry and I met with the representatives of Townview. I thought it was a productive meeting. There's a little bit of work they need to do on their end that they know about and that they're working on in order to enter into a valid contract with us. And on our side, I have nearly completed a revised proposal to them based on our prior discussions, dealing with, I think, for instance, a stipend relative to the insurance premium that would be attributable to what we're calling Parcel A, and then also relative, they wanted certain of their legal fees paid to the extent incurred in the review and drafting of various agreements and things of that sort, subject to various limitations that we discussed before. They have to be pre-approved with a certain rate and things of that sort. So I should have that to them in a week or so. But again, the main thing at this point from their end is they have a little bit of work to do to be able to validly enter into a contract with us.
Right. For point of clarification for folks that don't know, what Tom's describing is an easement that the town is in the process of acquiring again to continue to expand the Rails to Trails property that we own. So that the Townview property is one of the many properties the town is obtaining easements, so we can complete that.
And then on the same line, on another piece of that property, currently owned by China, we have a purchase agreement in place. We did have to amend that and push out the closing date to April because there's some things that our surveyor has to do, and the title exam came back, and some things we need to work on, basically. But the long and the short of it is that there's also real progress to be reported on the China side as well. So that's two of the properties that are of vital importance to the town on which we're making some progress, although it is, I agree, can be molasses. That is it.
Great, thank you. We have the code enforcers report. Call for any other business.
The only thing I'm going to bring up real quick is that handed out, thanks to Councilman King, it was asked by this body what the tower would look like in the description for the letter that EDC had asked for support to draft to get an aerometer put up for potential for windmills.
So Scott, this is a study done
This was
on
done in
Windy Ridge.
Langamore.
Yeah, this is an anemometer. These are pictures of the tower that puts an anemometer 100 feet in the air. They stay there for a year, and it's basically to see if the wind is good and steady enough to put a windmill or several windmills or electric generated windmill on that piece of property.
So they actually put it up, they'll measure it, and they take it down after a year. And as you can see from the image, thanks to Councilman King again, it's really not obstructive.
We were concerned what it was going to look like. I believe was the question here. What were we talking about?
Consensus was to send it over to planning. I think anybody in Mount Area will tell you, you don't need, it's windy up here.
Great, thank you.
I know they want the actual stats.
Right.
And I did have one other, if Scott, you done with that? I had one other thing to say. I just wanted to talk about, snow removal and everything in this town is outstanding. We've been through a couple of events here in December where I get up at 4:35 o'clock and I go to work. And I was able at any time to leave my house. It was, Brian and the guys are doing a great job, and I just want them to know that we do appreciate them. And, I have family that's been up here they don't have to deal with snow anymore, and they thought it was great.
We'll make sure we relay that to staff. Thank you very much for your kind words.
And that's all I have.
Any other business? Okay, seeing none, a motion that the bills be paid.
Motion.
Scott, turn a second. Bob,
I'll second.
all's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Motion to adjourn? I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Hey, you made it.
Good job.
8:50.